you for tuning in for another episode of In the Spotlight Presents. Today, we have our Sister Katrina Muhammad of Mosque Mariam. She's here visiting, and we have her here in the spotlight. And we are highlighting one of her books. It is Relationship Talks, a guide to meaningful conversations for courtship, engagement, and marriage. So, welcome to the show, and thank you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Praise
I'm excited to be here.
Good. Now, we're going to jump right in.
Okay.
And start with what made you write this book.
My divorce. No.
Okay.
Honestly, sis, I went through that experience and it was like, how could this happen? I was in courtship for 2 years. I had introduced this person to my entire family. I met their family. We were in counseling sessions with the student minister.
Right.
Like, how could this happen? How could I miss? What did I miss?
Right.
What questions did I not ask? We went through the courtship manual. It was just a lot. It was a lot. And so I had to just take a deep breath. You know, the minister said those are car wrecks. Mm-hmm. And I had to analyze and not so much pointing fingers outwards as to looking in the mirror inwards to say, okay, what didn't I do? Mm-hmm. What didn't I see? Mm-hmm. I obviously want to get married again. Right. So I need to make a correction so that I'm not rinse, repeat, and I'm making the same mistakes all over again. So I took a deep breath. Right. I slowed down. Right. I talked to a lot of married couples who had been married, 20 years, 10 years, 30 years, 40 years. I talked to a lot of divorced couples to find out, well, why did you have the divorce and what happened, to see if there were some similarities in our experiences. Right. I talked to a lot of single people who are serial daters or serial courtshippers, or people who really want to get married, but they, quote, haven't found the right person yet. Yeah. Why is that? And what kind of conversations have you had? Then I went outside of our community in terms of in the United States. Mm-hmm. And I researched, well, who has this thing right? Right. Is there anyone? Right. Because what I found here in the States, Black, white, Muslim, Christian, it didn't matter. The divorce rates are very high. Yes. So is this just a, North America, United States thing? Like we can't stay married here? Like, what is it? Right. I found that there were marriages that were lasting with only a 3 to 5% divorce rate overseas. Well, who are they? Right. And why is that? That's incredible. 5% divorce rate? I mean, when our divorce rate is 50% and above. And above. So I found out that those people do extensive communicating and talking and questioning each other, vetting each other to make sure they're the right choice for each other. And I delved in even more. And essentially, it's not arranged marriages, because that's different. Mm-hmm. But it's matched marriages. And those matched marriages were lasting like, only a 3 to 5% divorce rate. And those people were very happy. Between the two? What would be the difference between a matched marriage and a prearranged marriage? So the prearranged marriages, many of those had higher success rates as well in terms of their longevity of marriage compared to us in the United States. Okay. But they still weren't as successful as matched marriages. Arranged marriages would be very traditional, very in the Muslim community. We have arranged marriages where mother and father determined to find a match for their son or daughter that is very along the lines of the class system. Right. They're looking for a match where that son or that match for their son or daughter went to the same schools. Right. Their parents make whatever amount of money. They are in whatever circles. And so they're making arrangements while their child is only 3 years old. Right. Exactly. You're going to be married to my friend's daughter. Right. Who's also 3 or 4 when you all grew up. That's the plan. Right. And they're signing contracts, and it's an understood thing that when they come of age, that's who they're marrying. Right. That's your mate. That's your mate. That's your mate. They've never met. They've never talked. They don't know anything about each other. But the parents of the two have had conversations and have made the determination, I want my son to marry your daughter.
Okay.
And then so that's an arranged marriage.
Arranged, okay. Mm-hmm. Now the matched
marriage is where there's a separate entity. In some of these countries, they actually have a matchmaking department in their government where singles could go and fill out these questionnaires. And when I say questionnaire, we're talking like 300 questions on this question. Wow. Like, it's extensive,
right?
These questionnaires. And it's lots of questions that are very thorough, in depth, which is why I didn't hesitate to go all the way there in my book.
Right.
Well beyond the courtship manual. Courtship manual is great in our community.
Right, exactly.
But there's just some areas the courtship manual does not go.
Right.
Where I do go in my book, because I saw with that group of individuals that had these extensive questionnaires, they had better matches.
Wow.
And their matches, and by the way, they got a chance to see each other's pictures.
Right.
They got a chance to meet in a controlled environment. Mm-hmm. They went out on courtship dates.
Right.
Essentially, there was someone, a chaperone or someone there while they went to have coffee or ice cream, or all of that was to, okay, I like you on paper. Because they got a chance to see each other on paper and pick out, I like this person, or I like this person. And then, okay, now let's put them together and see if the energy is right, face to face when they're in person. But those outings were chaperoned.
Excellent.
They weren't, like in the U.S., we're going out on a date, everybody's all by themselves, who knows what they're doing. No, this was all chaperoned, above board. And so after a very short amount of time, which was in common with us. You don't get to courtship for 10 years. No, You have to make a decision. It was the same in their community with the matching. Okay, maybe, 6 months, maybe. At that point, you need to make a decision. Exactly. If you're moving forward into marriage. And if not, that's fine. But you don't get to just hold on to that person.
Exactly.
So when I researched this community and I saw that their divorce rate was like 3 to 5%, this longevity of marriage. And then I started talking to successful married people who were telling me things like, when they went out on dates, they didn't go to the movies. Mm-hmm. They went to a coffee shop. Mm-hmm. And they spent that entire time just talking, just getting to know each other.
Exactly.
They didn't do wasteful activities when they went out together. All of their activities in the beginning, for the most part, was all about, I just want to talk to you. Right. I just want to talk to this person. I just really enjoyed talking to them. And what I learned about them, that's when I knew I would fall in love with them and wanted to marry them. But they gathered so much information that they knew that was the right person for them. So then I said to myself,
wow,
that's it. I didn't get enough information the first time around.
Okay.
I need to ask more questions and better questions.
Right.
And so then I started making this list for myself.
Right.
And then, social media, start posting it.
Right.
And then people were like, those are good questions. Where'd you get those from? I'm like, it's from my list.
Right.
It's what I'm going to ask.
Right.
My next boo. Inshallah. And they were like, well, you need to pass some questions over because those are some good questions.
Right.
And so I started posting more and more. And people were like, look here. Do you have a book, a manuscript or something? Because I can't keep writing all these questions down from Facebook. I said, I don't know. I never thought about that. And maybe about the fourth or fifth person to say to me, do you have a book? These should be in a book. I was like, okay, Allah, you're trying to tell me to write a book. And then that's where it came from. And the rest is history.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And what I love about it is we're told to take the courtship very seriously.
Exactly.
This is not a dating time. This is for us to get to know who exactly it is we want to get into.
That's right.
And a lot of times what you said, hindsight, we sit in hindsight and we can now reflect and say, that was a red flag, that was a red flag, and I ignored that. So I like that you said that about the questions.
Right.
And getting more information.
That's right.
About each other. So let me ask you something. Now, from this book,
yes,
what would be your greatest insight that came from all the questions asked, all the questions collected, talking to the various couples in these relationships? Mm-hmm. What was some insight you gained personal?
There's no such thing as a bad question.
Right.
I meet so many and have met so many people that read some questions out of my book and said, wow, I would have never thought to ask that, or I would have been too shy to ask that. Or, you know what, that question was on my mind when I was with my first husband or my first wife, and something told me to ask that, but I thought maybe it would make me look like whatever, so I didn't ask it.
Right.
And lo and behold, that ended up being an issue in our marriage. So don't hold back. There's no such thing as a stupid question, a bad question. Ask it.
Right.
Communicate. That's very important. And if you are with your court mate, your soon-to-be husband, soon-to-be wife, and you have emotions where you feel uncomfortable asking a question, maybe that's a red flag too.
Right.
Because you should be able to communicate.
Right.
This is your other half.
Right.
This is your partner in life. This should become your best friend. This is how the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan describes Mother Khadijah as his best friend.
Exactly.
So if there are questions in this book, or just in general in your mind, that you feel hesitant to ask that person who you believe you're going to marry, why is that?
Right. Now we
There
need to
shouldn't
ask
be.
that question.
Right. What's really going on?
Right. Exactly.
See, now we're uncovering a communication problem.
Right.
Maybe an integrity problem. Maybe some other kind of problems,
Right.
But we have to ask the question. And we have to be willing to answer the question. So I say that in my book, don't ask questions that you're not willing to answer.
Right.
That's like setting people up. You want to know, tell me about your finances, this and that and the other. But when the question is posed back to you, it's like, well, I don't really want to talk about that.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
no, that's not fair.
The door is now open.
The door is open.
For two-way on this.
That's right. It has to be. And if you're not ready to answer the question, then don't discuss it.
Right.
It's okay. Take time. Maybe that person needs time. Right. They don't want to, there's some sensitive topics in there. It's questions about molestation and how you grew up, and, if you've ever been raped and have you dealt with that. And just so many intimate details and things that have happened to people in life that, on the second courtship date, they may not be willing to divulge that information. Right. And that's okay. And that's actually pretty honest and fair. It's only the second courtship date. Maybe they need time to talk about, things of that sensitivity to first get to know that person.
Right.
That's fine. Take that time. But don't, avoid the conversation. Still have the conversation.
It sounds like even in marriage.
Yes.
These are good questions, because I know for me, I'm right now just at my 3rd year of marriage. And I can't say we know everything about each other.
No.
We're still discovering and learning.
You're still honeymooning.
And we're still honeymooning.
Yeah.
And he still smell good like all the time.
Of course.
And I'm like cute all the time. He ain't seen the other parts. So these are great questions, even in marriage, to keep that communication line open with one another. It doesn't stop in courtship or engagement.
No, it shouldn't stop. And that's the whole point of the book. I'm glad you brought that up. I have had couples that have been married 20 plus years that have read my book, Relationship Talks, and reached out to me and said to me, Sister Katrina, I have learned new things about my husband or my wife that I didn't even know. And we've been married 20 years.
Right.
Like, what? These questions are phenomenal. It is creating a situation where we're talking about some sensitive subjects or topics that we never really kind of went there.
Right.
Either because whatever the reason, I didn't want to bring it up. He didn't want to bring it up. So now we have a good out from all of that. The question's in the book.
Right.
So you don't have to get mad at me for thinking of the question or asking it. It's in the book. We're just reading the book together and we're answering these questions and getting a chance to know each other. Yes, it was surprising how many married couples reached out to me and said that exact same thing. And courtship couples. Right. Courtship couples reached out to me and said, we've been in courtship. We're about to get engaged. We've already talked about it. We picked out rings, but, we haven't just made it official. We started reading your book. We learned even more about each other. Yeah. And we thought we knew everything, and we're like ready. We're not like at the point where, we came across a question and we want to postpone engagement or whatever.
Our minds.
Yeah, we've not changed our minds, but it has enlightened us even more as to who we both are. Right. Thank you so much for that. And said, all praises due to Allah. That was the whole point of the book. That was the point of the book. And I've met some people some sisters, and maybe one brother reached out to me and said, I want to thank you for the book and the questions. I did end my courtship.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't right, but all praise is due to Allah. I want that person to find the right person for them, and I find the right person for me. All praise is due to Allah.
Right.
We don't want divorces.
Right.
We don't want failed marriages or families broken up. That has to stop in the Black community. We have to make better choices and marry the right person for us. Then we can have successful marriages. That's the point of the book.
And what I love about it, because being full transparency, I'm not on my first marriage. There's some car wrecks in my background. We ain't got to go into all my business.
Keeping it real.
We'll just say there are some car wrecks, and I've learned to be a better driver now.
Okay.
But there were things I didn't even know to ask.
Yeah.
Until later. And then again, the red flags made me say, I didn't even know to ask, do you know how to work with money?
Right.
Or I didn't know to ask, have you ever had a job?
Right.
I just assumed at this point there were certain things you just knew.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be even more honest. When I first joined the ranks, I'm thinking, well, every headpiece go with every bow tie. I believe, you believe, we good to go.
Yeah, that's it.
And then I got married and was like, ooh, I don't like you.
Right.
At all. It was a bunch of questions I didn't ask. I need a book and there's a pamphlet.
Right.
But it was that, like you're saying, taking the time to talk.
Right.
And not get caught up in the romance or the Hollywood version.
Right.
Of things, but really using the science of mating.
The science of mating, yes.
To see who is in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because we can put up facades.
Yes.
And I've met people who have presented the face they want me to see.
Right.
Not who they are, but who they eventually would like to be.
Mm-hmm. And this happens on the sister side and the brother side. This happens on both sides.
Yes.
And so I had brothers reach out to me. I'm so glad that you didn't just tailor this book for women and it's like male bashing.
Right.
The pronouns that I use in this book is they and them, and I try to stay away from his and her, because then people start feeling a certain kind of way, like, what's she trying to say? All men are bad. Women commit domestic violence too.
Right.
I know some men who were in relationships like that, where women were picking up anything around the house and throwing it at them and thought that that was okay because that's how they grew up. That's what they saw. And domestic violence only happens when men do it. Right. That's not true.
Exactly.
You are hitting your partner or doing anything violent, whether you're a male or female, that's domestic violence.
That's what it is.
And so I'm careful to make sure in the book, the way I've written it, that it's not male bashing. It is not, rah-rah. It's all about the female, because it's all the men. We all know it's the men with the problem. That's not true. You know what I'm saying? I wrote the book so that it's open to both groups to read through and to pose questions to their loved one to get the answers that they need.
That's excellent. Yeah. Now, there are those who are have the aspiration. We're going into a new year.
Yes.
So people are saying, I want to write a book.
Yes.
What were some hurdles in writing your first book?
I think myself. I was my hurdle. Because, as a Black person, and other Black people watching this will probably resonate, you don't see yourself as a author. Somebody wants to read something I wrote.
Right. Exactly.
Like something I wrote. You don't see yourself like that.
Right.
And I had to get over that, which I guess is low self-esteem or just not really valuing myself on that level, and really tune into what the minister said. The minister said, he wants us all to become authors. He wants us all to tell our stories.
Right.
He wants us all to write and become writers so that we're reading our books. We have a whole library full of books.
Exactly.
And when I reflected on those words, and I thank Allah for him, that gave me the strength to say, when other people were saying, you should write this, this should become a book, I was like, oh, well, the minister did say.
Exactly.
That confirmation. And then I was like, okay, all right, well, okay, Katrina, sit down, make a plan, block off other stuff
Right.
and just get this done. Get a graphic designer, get a lawyer, this, all these things I had in place. And so I put the plan together. I reached out to all these people and said, hey, this is what I'm about to do. What next? Right. What do I do? Because I've never done this before.
Right.
And they were like, okay, I'm going to send you a contract. You need a cover. You need this. I found a videographer or a photographer, rather, Brother Talib, who's amazing in Chicago. I reached out to him. He took the photo. The author.
Shout out to Brother Talib.
Shout out to him. Because I wasn't going to put my photo on there, but so many people were like, no, you have to put your photo on the book. It's your product. You have to put your photo. And that's powerful to see your photo in a headpiece.
Yeah.
Like, you need to do that so people understand who we are. And then, of course, my amazing editor, Sister Karai, shout out to her.
Shout out to Sister
Also
Karai.
a Detroiter. Also a Detroiter, living in D.C., Muhammad Boss number 4. But she is an amazing editor. My mother, too, shout out to her, because she, mom was like, let me see that copy with her own red pen. She used to be a court stenographer. She's retired, so you already know.
Right.
She was like, no, let me see. Hold on.
There's an apostrophe or comma missing.
And then, of course, Brother Jamil, Student Minister Jamil Muhammad. Shout outs to him. He wrote the foreword. He was definitely the one that's like, no, you need your picture on there.
Right.
But he also gave me so much confidence because I needed a male voice. I needed a male opinion to read the book. Because, of course, I gave it to all my sisters and, my mom. And all the women were like, oh, my God, this is fire. This is amazing. But I was like, but what do brothers think? Like, what will they think? And so I reached out to him and I said, I'd really like for you to do the foreword. It needs that, that energy. It needs that balance. Mm-hmm. Can you read the manuscript? Can you tell me what you think? And I'll even pay you to read the manuscript. He was like, what? No, give it to me. He read the manuscript. I thought I'd hear back from him like in a couple of months. He called me within a couple of hours. And was like, I just read it. This is amazing. I was like, wait, you read all 200 some pages of it? Are you talking
about? It's a nice size book.
Did you skip through? He was like, no, I read every single question. This is amazing. I'm using this in my next courtship. I have so many questions for you. And then he basically started asking me some of the questions you've been asking me. And he said, sis, I would be honored to write the foreword for this book. Our community, our nation needs a book like this because our divorce rate is atrocious in terms of in the Black community. Right. We have so many Black broken families, and that has to stop. Right. And if your book can help even just one couple, then it's done its job, And so he wrote this amazing foreword for the book. And I was just like, wow, thank you, Allah. Just so many, one of those things is when you have a product or a project that you want to do and everything just starts kind of coming into place. That's what it felt like with the book. Excellent. It just came into place. And so now we're going on 1.5 years and I sold a lot of copies. It's on Amazon. Yes. I'm so thankful to Allah. I'm so thankful to Allah because the goal of the book was to help people in that area of their life. And I think it's done that. And I think it's still doing that. Excellent. And I'm so thankful.
Well, I'm thankful that you have graced our show today with your presence, with the book, giving that insight. We thank Student Minister Jamil, nothing but the truth.
Nothing but the truth. And Sister Tisha, his lovely wife.
His lovely wife.
Read, in their courtship, they tell me, they read that book.
See,
cover to cover. Cover to cover. And she was like, brother was like, well, we don't have to ask these questions. We grown. We've been, She was like, no, we're going through every single question, sir. Page for page. And all of the activities in the book.
All praise. Well, we thank you for joining In the Spotlight Presents.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Please tell the people how to order the book. How can they get the book?
Go to Amazon.com, type Relationship Talks, or you could type Katrina Muhammad, and the book should come up with no problem. I'm on Facebook. You can research Katrina Muhammad or Relationship Talks. I believe I have a Twitter account and Instagram, all of this stuff. Everybody was like, you have to get all this social media. I'm not on TikTok, though. I don't know. I don't know about the TikTok thing or the Snapchat. And I don't know all that stuff. But very easy to find me, very easy to get the book. It's a decent price. It's a great, I guess, holiday gift for someone or Savior's Day gift. Just get it and let me know your thoughts.
Excellent. Again, we thank you for being a part of In the Spotlight Present. May Allah continue to bless you and your family. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sister.